Chapter 79. The reigning monarch saves the little boy as the story tells how the royal aide dragged the imitation Tang priest out of the government hospital and marched him, heavily surrounded by royal guardsmen, straight to the gates of the palace, where he said to the eunuch gate officer, "Please be so good as to report to His Majesty that we have brought the Tang priest." The eunuch officer hurried into the palace to pass this on to the deluded king, who ordered that they be brought in. All the officials knelt at the foot of the steps to the throne hall, leaving the imitation Tang priest standing alone in the middle of them. "King of Pixeland," he shouted, "what have you summoned me here to say to me?" "We are sick with a chronic illness that has dragged on for many a day without any improvement," the king replied. "Now the elder of the nation has to our good fortune presented us with the prescription that has been made up. All that is needed now is an adjuvant. The reason we have sent for you, reverend sir, is to ask you for the adjuvant. If we recover, we will build a temple to you in which offerings will be made in all 4 seasons, and incense will be burnt to you in perpetuity by our country." "I am a man of religion," the imitation Tang priest replied, "and have brought nothing with me. I do not know what adjuvant the elder of the nation has told your majesty you need." The deluded monarch replied, "I will be frank with your majesty," the imitation Tang priest said. "I have a number of hearts. I don't know which you want." "Monk," pronounced the elder of the nation, who was standing beside the king, "I want your black heart." "Produce your knife at once and open up my chest. If there is a black heart there, I shall offer it to you obediently." The deluded monarch thanked him delightedly and ordered an official in attendance to bring a small knife with a blade shaped like a cow's ear that was handed to the imitation Tang priest. Taking the knife, the imitation Tang priest undid his clothes, thrust out his chest, pressed his left hand against his abdomen, and cut the skin of his stomach open with the knife in his right hand. There was a whoosh, and out rolled a whole pile of hearts. When the elder of the nation saw this from inside the throne hall, he said, "This monk is a suspicious-minded character. He has too many hearts." The imitation Tang priest then held up the hearts one by one, each dripping with blood for all to see. They included a loyal red heart, a pure white heart, a yellow heart, an avaricious heart, a fame-hungry heart, a jealous heart, a calculating heart, an over-competitive heart, an ambitious heart, an overbearing heart, a murderous heart, a vicious heart, a vicious heart, a frightened heart, a cautious heart, a radical heart, and a heart full of indefinable gloom. The deluded ruler was horror-struck, unable to speak until he said in trembling tones, "Put them away, put them away." The imitation Tang priest had taken as much as he could, so he put his magic away and turned back into himself to say to the deluded monarch, "Your Majesty, you're not at all perceptive. We monks all have good hearts. It's only this elder of the nation of yours who has a black heart. His would make a good adjuvant for the medicine. Look." He saw that the monk's face had changed to something quite different. Heavens, recognizing him as the great sage monkey who had been so famous 500 years ago, he made a getaway by cloud. Monkey did a somersault and sprang up into mid-air to shout, "Where do you think you're going? Take this from me." The elder used his stick with a dragon on its head to meet the blow from Monkey's cudgel. The two of them fought a fine battle up in the sky, the as-you-will cudgel and the dragon stick making clouds up in the sky. The elder of the nation was really an evil spirit, using his fiendish daughter's seductive charm. The king had made himself ill through his lust. The monster wanted to butcher the boys. There was no escape from the great sage's divine powers to catch demons and to rescue their victims. The cudgel's blows to the head were really vicious. Splendid was the way in which the stick met them. They fought so hard that the sky was full of mist, casting city and people into darkness and fear. The souls of civil and military officials went flying. The faces of the queens and concubines turned pale. The deluded king tried desperately to hide, trembling and shaking, unable to do anything. The cudgel was as fierce as a tiger from the mountains. The staff whirled round like a dragon leaving the sea. Now they made havoc in Vixland, as good and evil were clearly set apart. When the evil spirit had fought over 20 hard rounds with Monkey, his dragon staff was no longer a match for the gold-banded cudgel. Fainting with his staff, the spirit turned himself into a beam of cold light and dropped into the inner quarters of the palace to take the demon queen he had presented to the king out through the palace gates with him. She too turned into cold light and disappeared. Bringing his cloud down, the great sage landed in the palace and said to the officials, "That's a fine elder of the nation you have." The officials all bowed to him, thanking the holy monk. "No need for that," said Monkey. "Go and see where your deluded king is." When our monarch saw the fighting, he hid in terror. The officials replied, "We do not know which of the palaces he is in. Perhaps Queen Beauty has carried him off." As soon as the officials heard this, they rushed with Monkey straight to the rooms of Queen Beauty, ignoring the fact that these were the inner quarters. They were deserted, and there was no sign of the king. Queen Beauty was nowhere to be seen either. The queens of the main, the eastern, and the western palaces, and the consorts of the 6 compounds all came to kowtow in thanks to the great sage. "Please get up," Monkey said. "It's too early for thanks now. Go and find your sovereign lord." A little later, 4 or 5 eunuchs appeared from behind the hall of caution, supporting the deluded king. All the ministers prostrated themselves on the ground and called out in union, "Sovereign Lord, Sovereign Lord, we are grateful that this holy monk came here to uncover the impostor. The elder of the nation was an evil spirit, and Queen Beauty has banished too." Monkey to come from the inner quarters of the palace to the throne hall, where he now bowed in thanks to Monkey. "Venerable sir," he said, "when you came to court this morning, you were so handsome. Why have you made yourself look different now?" "I can tell you for a fact, your majesty," replied Monkey with a grin, "that the one who came this morning was my master Sanzang, the younger brother of the Tang Emperor. I'm his disciple Sun Wukong. There are 2 more of us disciples, Zhu Lineng or Pig and Xiao Wu Jing, or Friar Sand, who are both now in the government hostel. I turned myself into my master's double and came here to defeat the monster because I knew that you had been deluded by his evil suggestions and were going to take my master's heart to use as an adjuvant for your elixir." When the king heard this, he ordered his ministers in attendance to go straight to the hostel to fetch Monkey's master and fellow disciples. The news that Brother Monkey had turned back into himself and had fought the evil spirit in midair gave Sanzang such a fright that his soul scattered. It was lucky that Pig and Friar Sand were able to hold him up. His face was still plastered with stinking mud, and he was feeling thoroughly depressed and miserable when he heard someone call, "Master of the law, we are ministers in attendance sent by the King of Vixland to invite you to court to receive his majesty's thanks." "Don't be afraid, master," said Pig. "Don't be afraid. This time he's not sending for you to take your heart out. I'm sure that elder brother has succeeded, and they're inviting you there to thank you. Even if they had come to invite me there because he has succeeded, I could not face anyone with this stinking mask on," Sanzang replied. "We've got no option," said Peg. "We'll just have to go to see my elder brother. He's bound to have a solution." The venerable elder really did have no choice but to go to the main hall of the hostel, with Pig and Friar Sand carrying the luggage and leading the horse. When the ministers saw him, they were all terrified. "My lord," they said, "they both have heads like monsters. Please don't take offense at our ugliness," Friar Sand replied. "Both of us have the bodies that were left after an earlier life. If my master could see my elder brother, he'd become handsome straight away." When the 3 of them reached the palace, they went straight to the throne hall without waiting to be summoned. As soon as Monkey saw them, he turned round and came down from the hall to meet them. Pulling the mud mask off his master's face, he blew on him with magic breath, called change, and turned the Tang priest back into himself. Sanzang was now in better spirits. The king came down from the throne hall to greet him as master of the law and ancient Buddha. Master and disciples then tethered the horse and went into the throne hall to be presented. "Does your majesty know where the monsters came from?" Monkey asked. "Let me go and catch them both for you. Then we will have eliminated future catastrophe." When all the queens, consorts, and concubines of the 3 palaces and 6 compounds who were behind the screen of bright green jade heard Monkey saying that he was going to eliminate future catastrophe, they cast aside all their inhibitions about appearing in front of an outsider, and a male one at that, as they came out to bow to him and say, "We beg you, holy monk and venerable Buddha, to destroy them completely, root and branch, with your Dharma powers. That would be an act of the greatest kindness, and we would, of course, reward you richly." "We asked him when he came here 3 years ago," the king replied shamefacedly, "and he told us that it was only some 20 miles to the south of the city, in pure splendor Grange on Willow Slope. The elder of the nation was old and had no son, only the daughter that his second wife had given him. She was just 15 and unmarried. Then he told us that he had a formula for an elixir for which a decoction of boiled little boys' hearts was needed as the adjuvant. In our folly we believed him and chose some boys from among the common people. At noon today we were going to operate and take out their hearts. We never expected that you would come down to us, holy monk, and that at that very moment all the boys would disappear in their co-ops. Then he said that as you were a holy monk who had cultivated the truth for 10 lifetimes and not yet dissipated your primal masculinity, your heart would be 10,000 times more effective than the little boys' ones. In our temporary delusion we did not realize that you would see through the evil monster, holy monk. We hope that you will make full use of your great Dharma to eliminate any future catastrophe. All the wealth of the nation will be given to you as your reward." "I will tell you the truth," Monkey replied. "Because my master took pity on the little boys in the co-ops, he told me to hide them. Don't say anything about giving us wealth. When I capture the evil monsters, that will be a good deed to my credit." "Come with me, Pig." "Whatever you say, elder brother," Pig replied. "The only thing is that I've got an empty belly. I'll be rather weak." The king then ordered the Department of Foreign Affairs to prepare a vegetarian meal at once. Before long the food arrived. Having eaten his fill, Pig braced his spirits and rose by cloud with Monkey. The king, queens, consorts, and civil and military officials were all so astonished that they all knelt bowed to the sky, exclaiming, "They really are mortals and Buddhas come down to earth." The great sage led Pig 20 miles due south, stopped their wine and cloud, and started searching for the demon's home. All he could see was a clear stream running between banks on which grew thousands of willows. He had no idea where the pure splendor Grange might be. Indeed, endless expanses stretched out in his gaze. The embankment had vanished amid willow and haze. When he could not find the Grange, the great sage son made a spell with his hands, said the magic word Om, and summoned the local deity, who approached shivering and shaking, fell to his knees and called out, "Great sage, the local god of Willowbank cows to you." "Don't be afraid," Monkey said. "I'm not going to hit you. Tell me this, is there a pure splendor Grange on Willow Hill? And where is it?" "There is a pure splendor cave," the local deity replied, "but there has never been a pure splendor Grange." "I suppose you have come from Bixelin, great sage?" Yes, Monkey replied. "The king of Bixelin was hoodwinked by an evil spirit till I turned up, saw through the monster, defeated him, and drove him away. He turned into a beam of cold light, and I don't know where he went. When I asked the king of Bixelin about it, he told me that when the demon first presented him with the girl 3 years ago, he asked the spirit about his background. The demon said that he lived in pure splendor Grange, on Willow Hill, 20 miles south of the city. I found this place with its wooded hill but can't see any pure splendor grain. That's why I asked you about it. I beg your forgiveness, great sage, said the local god, kowtowing. This is part of the domain of the king of Vixaland, and I should have kept a closer watch on things. But the evil spirit had such terrible magical powers. If I had given away what he was doing, he would have come and given me a bad time. That is why he has never been caught. Now that you are here, great sage, you need only go to the foot of the 9-forked willow on the southern bank. Walk around it 3 times to the left and 3 times to the right. Hit the tree with both hands and shout "Open up" 3 times. The pure splendor cave palace will then appear. On learning this, the great sage sent the local god away again, jumped over the stream with Pig, and went to look for that willow tree. There was indeed a tree with 9 forks on a single trunk. Stand well back, Monkey ordered Pig, while I make the gates open. When I found the demon and chased him out, you're to help. In response to this order, Pig took up his stand about 300 yards from the tree, while the great sage followed the local god's advice and went round the tree 3 times to the left and 3 times to the left and 3 times to the right, then hit it with both hands, shouting, "Open up! Open up!" An instant later, a pair of double doors opened with a noisy whoosh, and the tree was nowhere to be seen. Inside the doors was bright light of many colors, but no sign of human life. Confident in his divine might, Monkey charged in, which sun and moon stole their brightness. White clouds billowing from the caves, bright green lichens running wild in the courtyard. Along the path, rare flowers competed in beauty, while plants on the steps vied in fragrant blossom. Fairyland, or Panglay, the paradise of immortals. Creepers grew all over the benches. Vines ran wild across the bridge. Bees flew into the cave carrying flowers. Butterflies flirted with orchids as they passed the screen of stone. Screen was carved immortal palace of pure splendor. Unable to restrain himself, he jumped over the stone screen to see the old monster embracing a beautiful woman and telling her breathlessly what had happened in Vixaland. That was our chance, they said together. 3 years' effort should have paid off today, but that ape's ruined everything. Pushing the woman aside, the old monster swung his dragon-headed stick to block the cudgel. It was a fine battle that the two of them fought in front of the cave, and quite unlike the previous one. The upraised cudgel spat out golden light. Vicious vapors came from the swinging staff. Said, "How dare you, in your ignorance, come to my home?" Monkey replied. "I intend to subdue evil monsters," said the monster. "My love for the king was no business of yours, so why did you come to bully and interfere?" answered Monkey. "A compassionate monk should bring misrule to an end. We could not endure the slaughter of children." As they flung words at each other, hostility grew. Ath parried cudgel as blows struck at the heart. Precious flowers were destroyed as they fought for their lives. Green moss became slippery when trampled underfoot. Pale grew the light in the cave as they struggled. Crushed were the fragrant blooms on the crags. At the clash of their weapons, the birds dared not fly. Their shouts sent the beauties all running in terror. Only the monster and Monkey were left to stir up a hurricane that roared over the earth. Slowly their battle took them out of the cave, where one gave play to his mindless wrath. The sound of the commotion they were making inside so excited Pig, where he was waiting outside, that his heart itched. As he could get no relief from scratching, he raised his rake, smashed the 9-forked willow to the ground, then hit it several times so hard that blood gushed straight out with a barely audible sound. "This tree's become a spirit," he said. "This tree's a spirit." Pig had just raised his rake for another blow when he saw Monkey drawing the monster after him. Without another word, the idiot rushed forward, raised his rake, and struck. The old monster was already finding Monkey too much to cope with, so that Pig's rake made him more desperate than ever. Abandoning the fight, he shook himself, turned back into a beam of cold light, and headed east. Again, the two of them would not let the demon go, but headed eastwards in pursuit. Above the shouts of battle they heard the calls of the phoenix and the crane, and looked up to see that it was the star of longevity from the southern pole of the heavens. Placing a cover over the cold light, the old man called out, "Don't be in such a hurry, great sage. Stop chasing him now, Marshal Tian Peng. This old Taoist offers his greetings." Monkey returned his courtesy and asked, "Where have you come from? Longevity, my brother. You've capped the cold light, so you must have caught the monster, old fat chop," said Pig with a grin. Here he is," said the Star of Longevity, smiling back. "I trust you two gentlemen will spare his life." "The old devil's nothing to do with you, brother," said Monkey. "So why? Have you come to plead for him?" "He's a messenger of mine," replied the Star with a smile. "I carelessly let him escape to become a monster here. Since he's yours, make him turn back into what he really looks like for us to see," said Monkey. The Star of Longevity then let the cold light out and shouted, "Evil beast, turn back into yourself at once, if you want to be spared the death penalty." The demon turned himself round and revealed that he was really a white deer. Picking the staff up, the Star of Longevity said, "You've even stolen my staff, evil beast." The deer lay down in submission, unable to speak, but only now telling and weeping. Look at him, brindled like a tablet of jade and carrying a pair of 7-branched antlers. When hungry, he used to find the herb garden. On mornings when thirsty, he drank from the misty stream. In his lengthening years, he had taught himself to fly, and through many a day had mastered transformation. Now that he heard the call of his master, he resumed his own form and lay down in the dust. Thanking Monkey, the Star of Longevity mounted his deer and was just leaving when Monkey grabbed hold of him and said, "Not so fast, brother. There are a couple more jobs still to be done." "What jobs?" the Star asked. "The girl hasn't been caught yet, and I don't know what sort of monster she is," Monkey replied. "We've also got to go back to Bixland together to see the deluded ruler and show him what they really are." "In that case, I'll be patient," the Star replied. "You and Marshal Tian Peng can go down into the cave to capture the girl and take her back to show the king what she really is." "Just wait a little while," said Monkey. "We'll soon be back." Pig then summoned up his spirits and went straight into the immortal palace of pure splendor with Monkey. "Spirit!" he shouted. "Catch the evil spirit." Hearing this great roar, the beauty, who was trembling with fear and unable to escape, rushed behind the stone screen. But there was no rear exit. "Where do you think you're going?" Pig shouted. "I'll get you, you man-trap, you whore spirit. Try my rake." As the beauty was unarmed, she could not fight back, so she dodged the blow and turned herself into a beam of cold light and fled, only to be stopped by the great sage, who with 2 thumping blows of his cudgel knocked her off her feet and laid her low in the dust. She turned back into her real form as a white-faced vixen. Unable to restrain himself, the idiot lifted his rake and struck her a blow on the head. The great beauty of so many smiles was now a hairy fox. "Don't smash her to pulp," Monkey said. "Keep her in that shape to show her to the deluded king." The idiot grabbed her by the tail, not minding the filth, and dragged her out through the cave entrance with Monkey. Here he saw the Star of Longevity stroking the deer's head and giving him a dressing down. "Evil beast," he was saying, "why did you run away from me and come here to turn yourself into a spirit? If I hadn't turned up, the great sage sun would certainly have killed you." "What's that you're saying, brother?" asked Monkey, springing out of the cave. "I was telling the deer off," the Star explained, telling the deer off. Throwing the body of the dead fox in front of the deer, Pig said, "Your daughter, I suppose." The deer nodded and stretched its head out to sniff the body and whimpered as if with grief at its bereavement, until the Star of Longevity cupped its head and said, "Evil beast, you're lucky to have got away with your life. What are you sniffing her for?" He then took off the belt he wore around his gown, fastened it round the deer's neck, and let it off with the words, "Great sage." "Let's go to Bixland," said Monkey. "I feel like cleaning the whole place up so that no other evil creatures can ever live here again." When Pig heard this, he raised his rake and started to smash the willow down wildly. Monkey then said the magic word "Om" and summoned the local deity once more. "Gather some dried firewood," Monkey ordered him, "and start a roaring fire that will rid this place of yours of evil. Then you won't be bullied anymore." The local deity then turned around and with a roaring negative wind led his spirit soldiers to gather all sorts of withered vegetation that had dried out since the previous year. Frostbitten grass, autumn grass, knotweed grass, mountain grass, dragonbone grass, rushes and reeds. Once set alight, they would burn like oil or grease. "There's no need to go knocking trees over, Pig," said Monkey. "Fill the mouth of the cave with all this and set it alight. That'll burn the place clean out." And indeed, once they were lit, they turned the evil demon's pure splendor home into a fiery furnace. Only then did Monkey dismiss the local god and go with the Star of Longevity as they dragged the fox to the steps of the throne hall, where he said to the king, "Here's your Queen Beauty. Do you want to fool around with her now?" This caused the king a terrible shock at the sight of the great sage Monkey bringing the Star of Longevity with the white deer before the throne hall. Monarch, ministers, consorts, and queens all dropped to the ground to kowtow. Monkey went up to the king and held him up. "Don't honor me," he said with a smile. "This deer is the elder of the nation. Prepare a vegetarian feast." Had the eastern hall of the palace opened up and invited the Star, the ancient of the southern pole, to take part in a Thanksgiving feast with the Tang priest and his 3 disciples. Sanzang bowed in greeting to the Star of Longevity, as did Friar San. "If the white deer is one of your creatures, Star of Longevity," they both asked, "how did he get here to become such a nuisance?" "Some time ago the Lord of Eastern Splendor came to my mountain," the Star of Longevity replied with a smile, "and I persuaded him to sit down for some chat. Wicked creature escaped before our first game was over. It was only when I couldn't find him after my visitor had gone that I worked out by calculating on my fingers that he must have come here. I had just reached here in my search for him when I met the great Sage Sun using his mighty powers. If I had been any later, this beast would be dead." Before he could finish his remarks, it was announced that the banquet was ready. It was a splendid vegetarian feast. The room was overflowing with color. Exotic fragrances filled the hall. Embroidered hangings made the tables magnificent. Red carpets on the floor shimmered like the glow of dawn. From duck-shaped censers curled the scented smoke of eaglewood. See how high the towers of fruit were piled. Sugar dragons and prowling animals. Molded mandarin ducks lie in confections, looking quite lifelike. Parrot goblets, cormorant ladles shaped like the real thing. Every kind of fruit in abundance. Each exquisite dish a delicacy. Giant longans and tender bamboo shoots, fresh lychees and peaches. Sweet smelled the jujus and persimmon cakes, more fragrant than wine were the pine nuts and grapes. Many a sweet dish made with honey, steamed pastries of various kinds, sugar-drenched donuts piled up like bouquets of flowers, mountains of rolls on golden dishes, fragrant rice heaped high in silver bowls, long bean noodles and hot chili soup. Tasty dishes came in succession. There was no end of button mushrooms, tree ear fungus, tender bamboo shoots, sealwort, vegetables of many flavors, 100 kinds of rare delights. They came and went in endless succession, all the abundant dishes offered at the feast. The seating was arranged on the spot, the seat of honor going to the Star of Longevity and the next best place to the Tang priest. The king sat between them while Brother Monkey, Pig, and Friar San sat at the side places. There were also 3 senior ministers present to keep them company, and the musicians and singers of the court theater were ordered to perform. Holding his purple cloud goblet, the king toasted them one by one. The only person who would not drink was the Tang priest. "Brother," said Pig to Monkey, "I'll leave the fruit for you, but you must let me have a good feed of the soup, bread, and rice." With no further thought, the idiot ate everything all at once. He devoured everything that was brought in and left nothing behind. "I didn't bring any elixir as I was here to search for my deer," the Star of Longevity replied. "I would like to teach you the techniques of self-cultivation, but you are so weak in body and ruined in spirit, that you would not be able to convert the elixir. All I have in my sleeve is these 3 jujus that I was intending to offer to the Lord of Eastern Splendor to take with tea. Haven't been eaten, I can offer them to you now." The king swallowed them, and he gradually began to feel lighter in body as the illness was cured. This was the origin of his later success in achieving immortality. As soon as Pig saw this, he called, "Longevity, old pal. If you've got any fire jujus, give me some." "I didn't bring any," the star replied, "but I'll give you several pounds of them next time." The Star of Longevity then went out of the eastern pavilion, expressed his thanks, called to the white deer, sprang on his back, and departed by cloud. We will not relate how the king, queens, and consorts in the palace and the common people in the city all burnt incense and kowtowed. "Disciples," said Sanzane, "let us pack up and take our leave of his majesty." The king pleaded with them to stay and instruct him. "Your majesty," said Monkey, "from now on you should be less greedy for your sexual pleasures and accumulate more hidden merit. In whatever you do, you should use your strong points to make up for your weaknesses. This is the way to get rid of your illness and prolong your life. Tell you, 2 dishes full of small pieces of gold and silver were then offered to the pilgrims to help with the expenses of their journey. But the Tang priest refused to accept a single penny. The king then had no choice but to order the royal carriage and invite the Tang priest to sit in the dragon and phoenix coach, while he, his queens, and his consorts pushed the wheels. Thus, they escorted him out of the palace. In the streets and markets, the common people also came with bowls of pure water and incense burners to see them on their way from the city. Suddenly there was the sound of a wind in the sky, and 11 goose coops landed on both sides of the road. The little boys in them were crying. Unseen in the sky were the deities who had been looking after them. The city and the local gods, the deities of the altars, the true officials, the guardians of the 4 quarters and the center, the 4 duty gods, the 6 dings and 6 jias, the protectors of the faith, and the rest of them, all responded with a loud shout of, "Great sage, on your earlier instructions, we carried the boys away in the goose coops. Now that we have learned of your success in your task and your departure, we have brought every one of them back again." And subjects fell to their knees to kowtow. "Thank you for your efforts, gentlemen," Monkey shouted to the sky. "Please all return to your shrines now. I'll get the people to make Thanksgiving offerings to you." With a soughing noise, the magic wind then arose again and departed. Monkey then told the people of the city to come and collect their children. The news was spread at once, and the people all came to claim the boys in the baskets. They were very happy indeed. Holding the boys in their arms, they called them dear ones and darling. Dancing and laughing, they told their children to take hold of the lords from Tang and bring them home so that they could express their thanks for the boys' rescue. Nobody, young or old, male or female, was frightened by the disciples' ugly faces as they all carried Pig, Friar Sand, Monkey, and the Tang priest back to the city in the middle of a crowd that also brought their luggage and led the horse. The king could not stop them. Only when they had been entertained in this way for nearly a month were the travelers able to leave the city. Portraits of them were painted and tablets bearing their names set up. To these the people could kowtow, burn incense, and make offering. Indeed. Great was the gratitude for their enormous kindness in saving the lives of infants by the thousand. If you don't know what happened later, listen to the explanation in the next installment.